The Middle East is once again thrust into the global spotlight, its fate intertwined with the world's most pressing concerns. Headlines flash across screens worldwide as a new crisis unfolds, sending shockwaves through governments and markets alike. A full-scale war has erupted between the United States and Iran, drawing in other countries and threatening to destabilize an already fragile region. The world watches as alliances are tested and old rivalries reignite. The immediate spark: Iran's growing ability to disrupt the vital Strait of Hormuz, a narrow waterway through which nearly a third of the world's oil supply passes. Any threat here sends energy prices soaring and economies reeling. In response, the U.S. and Israel launched direct military action, marking a dramatic and unprecedented shift in American foreign policy. The region is now a battleground for advanced weaponry and shifting alliances. Despite President Trump's America First promises, the U.S. finds itself deeply engaged in a major conflict, with American troops and resources committed on a scale not seen in years. This is a modern war: airstrikes, missiles, drones, and proxy forces, devastating for civilians caught in the crossfire. Cities once bustling with life are now scenes of chaos and fear, as families scramble for safety. The fighting has spilled across borders, creating a web of violence stretching from Lebanon to the Gulf states. Neighboring countries are drawn in, either by choice or by circumstance, as the conflict widens. For the U.S. and Israel, the goal is clear: secure vital oil routes, protect allies, and cripple Iran's military capabilities. The stakes are not just regional, but global, as energy security hangs in the balance. Iran, seeing this as a fight for survival, is determined to resist at any cost. Leaders rally the nation, vowing to defend their sovereignty and retaliate against any aggression. Each attack triggers swift and often brutal retaliation, fueling a dangerous cycle of escalation that threatens to spiral out of control. The risk of miscalculation grows with every passing hour. The conflict has become a regional inferno, with multiple countries drawn in and millions of civilians at risk. Refugees flee across borders, seeking safety from the relentless violence. The world watches anxiously, fearing catastrophic consequences for the global economy and security. Markets tumble, and leaders scramble to contain the fallout. The stakes could not be higher. As diplomats race to find solutions and military leaders weigh their next moves, the path forward remains dangerously unclear, and the world holds its breath. The war has entered a deadlier phase, marked by a relentless surge in violence and unpredictability. Cities that once bustled with life now echo with sirens and the distant rumble of explosions, as civilians scramble for safety in the chaos. This new chapter is defined by high-profile assassinations and massive, coordinated strikes that have shattered any sense of normalcy. On March 17, 2026, Israeli forces carried out a daring operation in the heart of Tehran, killing top Iranian officials, including Ali Larijani and Gholam Reza Soleimani. The attack sent shockwaves through the Iranian leadership and left the government reeling. Just days earlier, Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, was assassinated in a brazen attack, plunging the regime into unprecedented uncertainty and sparking widespread mourning and outrage across the country. The U.S. and Israel have shifted their strategy, now openly targeting Iran's leadership and military infrastructure, aiming to cripple command and control networks at every level. Iran's response has been swift and fierce. Vows of revenge echo through the streets as leaders promise to strike back with equal force. Within hours, a barrage of missiles and drones was unleashed at Israel and U.S. allies, lighting up the night sky and leaving cities on edge. Relentless strikes on both sides have escalated the violence, with each attack fueling the next, in a seemingly endless cycle of retaliation. U.S. and Israeli airstrikes have devastated IRGC headquarters, missile bases, and weapons factories, dealing heavy blows to Iran's military capabilities. The goal is clear: dismantle Iran's war machine and prevent further escalation, but the cost is mounting with every passing day. Yet each attack only deepens the chaos, fueling a cycle of retaliation that leaves civilians caught in the crossfire. Iran's resolve has hardened, and its proxies, Hezbollah, militias, and other armed groups, are more active than ever, launching attacks across borders and threatening to widen the conflict. The region is spiraling into deeper conflict, with millions displaced and borders growing ever more volatile. For many, hope is fading as the violence shows no sign of abating. The violence is now self-perpetuating, threatening to engulf the entire Middle East, in a conflict with consequences that could last for generations. The US and Israel's main objective is to secure the Strait of Hormuz, a vital choke point through which nearly a fifth of the world's oil supply passes every day. Control over this narrow waterway is crucial not only for their own energy security, but also for the stability of global markets and the economies of their allies. Their strategy is to cripple Iran's ability to threaten or disrupt these vital oil supplies, ensuring that energy continues to flow freely to the world. Disruptions here could send shockwaves through global markets, causing prices to spike and economies to falter. To achieve this, their campaign targets Iran's navy, missile sites, and command centers, neutralizing the tools Iran could use to close the strait or strike at shipping. Beyond the battlefield, the US and Israel also aim to weaken Iran's network of regional proxies, militias in Lebanon, Iraq, Syria, and Yemen, by cutting off support from Tehran, disrupting supply lines, and undermining their ability to project power across the Middle East. The ultimate goal is to roll back Iranian influence, restore a favorable balance of power, and reassure regional allies that the US and Israel remain committed to their security. For Iran, survival is paramount. The leadership views this conflict as a defining moment, an existential fight to preserve its system, sovereignty, and independence from foreign domination. The regime rallies its people, framing the war as a struggle for national dignity and resistance against outside pressure. Preserving the Islamic Republic's authority is seen as inseparable from defending the nation itself. Iran's strategy is asymmetric, relying on missile and drone strikes, proxy attacks, and unconventional tactics to offset its adversary's superior firepower. By targeting vulnerable infrastructure and disrupting US and Israeli interests, Iran hopes to demonstrate its reach and resilience. By opening multiple fronts and leveraging regional chaos, Iran aims to raise the cost of war for its enemies, making intervention seem too costly or risky to sustain. The aim is not outright victory but to endure, survive, and force a stalemate, hoping that time and attrition will sap the will of its adversaries. Both sides are locked in a struggle to outlast and outmaneuver the other, using every tool at their disposal: military, economic, and diplomatic. In the end, this conflict is a test of endurance, strategy, and resolve, not just firepower. The outcome will shape the future of the region for years to come. Iran's retaliation has turned the conflict into a regional firestorm. In just 24 hours, Iran launched 9 missile barrages at Israel, causing civilian casualties and panic. Iran also struck US-allied Gulf states, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Kuwait, and others, with missiles and drones. Fires at oil ports and civilian deaths highlight the war's expanding reach. Iran's proxies, especially Hezbollah, have opened new fronts, launching rockets and drones at Israel from Lebanon. Israel has responded with heavy strikes in Lebanon, risking a second major war front. In Iraq, Iranian-backed militias attack US targets, while US and Israeli airstrikes kill militia leaders. The fighting has turned Iraq into another battlefield. Proxy warfare is now a reality, with multiple countries under fire. The region is engulfed in violence, with no safe haven. Every new attack risks drawing in more actors and escalating the conflict. The Middle East is now a patchwork of active war zones. The conflict has drawn in global powers, each pursuing their own interests. Russia is backing Iran with satellite intelligence, drone technology, and tactical advice, making Iran's strikes more effective. Meanwhile, countries like Pakistan and India are scrambling to mediate, fearing regional chaos and economic fallout. India's main concern is the safety of its citizens in the Gulf and the stability of oil supplies. Even neutral countries like Kuwait are being dragged in, forced to defend against missile attacks and uncovering sabotage plots. The war is forcing every nation in the region to choose sides or defend themselves. No country is immune from the conflict's ripple effects. The war's cost in lives and money is staggering. U.S. military operations are costing nearly $900 million per day, with mounting casualties among American troops. Iranian civilians have suffered catastrophic losses, over 1,300 killed, including tragic strikes on schools. In Lebanon, over 1 million people have been displaced by cross-border fire, deepening the country's economic crisis. Families across the region face shortages of food, water, and medicine. The humanitarian crisis is spreading, with refugees and suffering on a massive scale. Globally, oil prices are surging as Iran disrupts shipping and attacks key ports. Rising energy costs are hitting consumers and businesses worldwide. The economic shockwaves are felt far from the battlefield. The war's devastation is both immediate and far-reaching. The war has created deep divisions in the U.S., clashing with President Trump's promises to avoid foreign entanglements. High-profile resignations and heated debates in Washington reflect growing unease. Congress remains split, with a failed vote to limit the president's war powers. Public opinion is sharply divided. Republicans largely support the war, while independents and many others oppose it. Rising gas prices and economic instability are fueling discontent, especially in key swing states. The war's political fallout could shape the 2026 midterm elections. Economic pain at home is turning a foreign crisis into a domestic political problem. The administration faces mounting pressure as the conflict drags on. Despite massive bombing and the loss of its supreme leader, Iran's regime has proven resilient. Mojtaba Khamenei was swiftly installed as the new leader, projecting stability. The death of Ali Larijani weakens moderates, consolidating power among hardliners. The regime uses the war to rally nationalist sentiment and suppress dissent. Yet, economic hardship and destruction are fueling public anger. The government must balance appearing strong abroad with managing unrest at home. Iran's survival depends on maintaining this delicate equilibrium. The future of the US-Iran conflict remains uncertain. One path is continued escalation, with both sides trading blows and the war spreading further. A sudden dramatic attack could trigger a wider regional or even global conflict. Yet, there are faint hopes for diplomacy. Back channels between the US and Iran have reopened. Countries like Pakistan and India are pushing for de-escalation. The ultimate outcome depends on decisions in Washington and Tehran. Will leaders choose war or seek a way out? The world waits, hoping diplomacy can avert an even greater tragedy.